Hello everyone, please welcome Mr. Hemant Fadins to present the 8th session of day 4. He will be speaking on electric vehicle program design. Sir, please take over.
Well, thank you very much. Hello everyone, my name is Hemant Fadnis, and I'm with Sail Ventures. We are a new organization that is dedicated to using AI in a sustainable way. Today's topic is electric vehicle program design and really lessons learned from California. So again, my name is Hemant. I've been in the technology world for about 25 years and currently working on managing and deploying electric vehicles across the United States, primarily in the West Coast. My work takes me to organizations large and small, public and private, to install electric vehicle chargers across the Western United States. It's my pleasure to speak to you today representing a new organization that I've been working on for several months now, which is Sail Ventures. We are a strategic AI and data consultancy in the kingdom. We focus primarily in the agricultural technology sector. We work with trying to deploy AI in the healthcare vertical, and also using data and setting up data systems to improve outcomes of AI programs. So today's topic is about really air quality, and to share a story about the state of California and how that story can translate over to Saudi Arabia. So to begin, our premise is that there is an air quality problem in Saudi Arabia. Air pollution, regardless of where it is, has a number of impacts. One, it reduces or impacts the cost of healthcare. It reduces the quality of life by essentially creating respiratory issues and so forth. So it increases your cost of healthcare. Second, it also decreases productivity. Indoor air pollution is something that affects people even when they go to work. So they take the air that's coming from the outdoors and it affects all of the air indoors, and it decreases productivity. There's a pressure on tourism. When you have air pollution problems, there's a negative impact on tourism, and there's an impact on social development as well, such that it impacts the ability for young people to develop, to learn, and so forth. So it causes a significant amount of negative impacts across the kingdom. I'm going to turn the video off for just a moment so I can run this without any bandwidth problems. Okay, so moving on. There is a risk of a future healthcare, tourism, productivity, and social development problem in Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned. When we talk about air pollution, what is it that we're actually talking about? Well, what we're really talking about is a particular size particulate. It's 2.5 micromillimeters, 3% of the width of a human hair. And it has such an impact that it increases the mortality rate of a population significantly. What we've seen is that long-term and short-term exposure to particulate matter that is 2.5 micromillimeters or smaller can actually increase mortality, such that a small 10 microgram per cubic meter increase can actually increase the mortality rate of a population by 2.8%. So it's not a very good thing to have going for you. So basically, let's put that in perspective. Saudi Arabia is currently 4th in terms of having some of the worst air pollution and particulate matter. The World Health Organization indicates that Saudi Arabia has the 4th highest concentration of fine particulate matter in the world, 4th largest. So really, the question here is, where is that particulate matter really coming from? Well, the first place is in electricity, in generating electricity to run our air conditioners, to run our city streets and our buildings. So 41% of that particulate matter is generated from our electric power plants. The second most leading cause of this particulate matter is in transportation. 21% of GHG, or we call greenhouse gas emissions, are from the transportation sector. And this problem, as you can see, has increased over the course of the past 20 and 30 years. There is some good progress being made since 2015. However, the particulate numbers and the emissions are still quite high. So what can we do about it? Well, there is a way forward. What we can do is take lessons from organizations and regions that have tried to address this problem of particulate matter in the air, GHG emissions. So let's talk about the case study for California. And why are we saying California? Well, the main reason for California is because in the United States, California has been a leader in setting aggressive GHG emissions goals and creating accompanying incentive programs and policies encouraging greater electric vehicle adoption. The story here is that California uses a series of programs to promote both the transition away from conventional fuels, i.e. gasoline, as well as a push towards adoption of electric vehicles. These include state-run vehicle purchase rebate programs, special privileges for HOV lanes, for high occupancy vehicle lanes, electric vehicle infrastructure, parking incentives, and so forth. So they have done a number of things to create incentives for people to put aside their gas-burning cars and move them over to electric vehicles. And I think we can possibly do the same thing in Saudi Arabia. And that's the purpose of today's session, to share the story of how California did it. So it started actually in 2007. The state of California created something called the Clean Vehicle Rebate Program. California took the strategy of starting with a program that broadly targeted the entire new car buying market in the state. The initial goal was to encourage faster early adoption of electric vehicles in the state. As the prevalence of electric vehicles became more commonplace and accessible to different market segments, the state narrowed the scope of the rebate program to focus incentives on mainstream early adopters. This involved gradually stepping down incentives over time in order to promote a healthy electric vehicle market. As a result, the CVRP program, as it's called, Clean Vehicle Rebate Program, has evolved over time. Beginning in 2010, a rebate program that gave $3,005 US to anyone who would purchase an electric vehicle. Anyone could apply. All vehicles were under consideration. In 2016, CVRP adjusted the incentive amounts down from $5,000 to $6,000, or $3,000 to $5,000 per person, to $1,500 to $2,500. And then from there, CVRP looked to move away from early adopters and started to appeal to early majority and underserved populations, those low-income areas across the state of California. And to further narrow the population of interest, in December 2019, CVRP introduced a manufacturer's suggested retail price cap. So when similar to the income cap, the MSRP cap focuses away from vehicles that appeal to those with higher wealth. And again, the idea was moving away from people who can afford very expensive electric vehicles to those who can possibly have a lower income and purchase more lower priced electric vehicles. So from 2010 to 2018, an estimated 1.9 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions, meaning those emissions that help create or put into the air that particulate matter that we were just referring to, the 2.5 particulate matter. So what was the end result? First, 1.9 million tons of GHGs were reduced. $296 per ton of GHGs were avoided. 2 to 4 times of savings in the lifespan of those in the overall project life cycle of those vehicles. And so basically it was a very successful program that reduced GHG emissions fairly quickly. So during that period during the rollout of that CVRP program, the CVRP program incentivized more than 381,000 electric vehicles with almost $875 million in rebate dollars. As can be seen on the right, the number of vehicles rebated has increased steadily since the program's inception. With the help of the CVRP program, California has achieved the highest market share of zero-emission vehicles in the United States. Normally, the market penetration of an electric vehicle in the new car marketplace is about 2%. Some places it's 3% across Europe and so forth. California achieved 5%. So that is encouraging, but in order for California to hit its publicly stated goal of a 15% market share, more work needs to be done. In any case, these GHG emissions reductions have led and will continue to lead to tangible social benefits. So what are some of the benefits? A recent study completed in Toronto that looked at the impacts of GHG reductions found that GHG reductions lead to cleaner air. The study predicted that even with a 20% market share of EVs, that led to significantly cleaner air in the metropolitan area of Toronto. These are projections. So if you see on the left, most of the concentration is in the main city. And over time, as GHGs and electric vehicles penetrate the market and GHGs reduce, cleaner air is the result. In addition, the same study found that reductions of GHG emissions led to a lower mortality rate. As can be seen on the chart on the left, a 20% market share of a combined 63 fewer premature deaths per year. So what are the impacts of GHG reductions? Societal benefits. So finally, fewer GHGs corresponded to a greater amount of money saved. Based on different scenarios of electric vehicle market share, the country of Canada could see between $500 million to upwards of $2.4 billion of societal benefits. Let's recap. California spent $875 million in rebate dollars to clean up the air on a much larger scale than in Canada. And Canada can see potentially not just $875 million in savings, but potentially $2.4 billion. So investment in a green, or I should say a low GHG future, definitely pays off. So what are the lessons learned from California that can be applied to Saudi Arabia? Well, first of all, Saudi Arabia can use lessons learned from other EV incentive programs to their benefit. One thing we can do is we can run pilot programs across the kingdom. Pilots are a great way to learn more about how an EV incentive program will perform before expanding it to a larger geographic area. Further, pilots should be run in the areas of greatest impact and greatest need to be able to set baselines for the rest of the state or the country. So to put that in perspective, you should put pilot programs where GHG emissions are in the greatest concentration. In addition, EV programs could benefit from using better narrowing their eligibility guidelines or outreach. So you can target your eligibility programs to those who, A, are either going to be the ones who can most afford an electric vehicle, or you can create programs to those who cannot afford a vehicle that buy many vehicles. In addition, EV programs could benefit from using public awareness programs as well. So public awareness of electric vehicles and EV programs continues to be a problem. An aggressive and widespread information campaign run at the same time as the pilot drives up demand for the technology and therefore the incentive programs themselves. So in this case, we are really seeing a situation that the first mover is really at a disadvantage. Saudi Arabia can benefit from lessons learned from other countries' incentive programs and can also benefit from the improvement in technology and methodology that has been developed during the time these programs have been running. One of those improved methodologies is using AI to improve EV program design. Data and AI can be used to more efficiently create EV policy and programs that fit a city, a region, or even a country, in this case, the kingdom's needs, in terms of creating a thriving electric vehicle market. One way in which data can be used in transportation is to identify transportation patterns to support EV market development and policy programs. In order to create effective EV incentive programs, policymakers need to understand transportation habits that currently exist. We need data such as what cars are Saudi Arabians driving? How often do they drive? How far do they normally drive per trip? All that information is behavioral information that can be put into an AI program to understand current behavior and to predict future behavior, because future behavior will also predict locations where there will be future GHG emissions problems. So what can AI do? AI can help predict where there will be potential emissions needs or emissions problems. And then therefore, you can then do some predictive analytics regarding what healthcare programs should I prepare for? What healthcare issues should I prepare for? Asthma, respiratory programs, etc. So AI can be a tool for predicting future GHG emission locations and therefore all the consequences resulting in high GHG emissions. So where can SAIL help? Well, we can do pilot design and policy implementation. We can do data collection and analysis. We can do research design and identify which data needs to be collected. And we can keep the conversation going. But to begin, the first thing to do is really to look at what can we do as a kingdom, as an overall nation. The way to start is first, every nation and every region has to start the same way, which is you must have an overall high-level climate strategy, sort of a set of high-level objectives. Those objectives get translated into specific goals. In this case, when you have a climate action plan, one of the goals as a kingdom will be to reduce overall GHG emissions from one metric level to another. So the first thing is create a climate action plan. Within that climate action plan, you will then create a GHG reduction plan and target for the overall kingdom. Then you go to each individual region within the kingdom and set up GHG reduction targets. And then within those regions, each city sets up a GHG reduction target. The challenge here is, how do you set the targets? What target do you set? Where are the regions that we should focus on? All of that can be answered through the data that we obtain, and also doing some predictive analytical studies with using AI tools, including satellite imagery, data labeling, labeling the behaviors of how people drive, and then seeing where people move using geospatial imagery. We can get that information using AI, and we can come up with good conclusions using AI. So the challenge here is to one that is setting a set of targets, narrowing your focus, and then also setting a roadmap to achieving specific metrics. And that's what we can do at SAIL. And that's what AI can do for you as well. So if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding electric vehicles, the story of California, and how AI can be used to reduce GHG emissions, and then also how best to set up an electric vehicle program using the data of the behavior of your population to improve your overall GHG outcomes. Any questions at all?
Well, I don't see any question. Thank you for the presentation. Maybe let's see, maybe others. Any question, please? The floor is open for any question.
All right. Well, we're available anytime. But again, the story here is to know that progress can be made in terms of reducing your GHG emissions. And the reason you set your GHG targets and you start reducing your GHG emissions is, as we had mentioned before, healthcare, respiratory issues. You become more vulnerable to COVID. You become more vulnerable to other respiratory viruses and illnesses. Your development suffers, your tourism dollars reduced. So there are tremendous benefits to focusing on GHG reductions and using electric vehicles to do that. But in order to set the right targets and in order to set the right program, you must understand current state behavior, and you must be able to predict future behavior of your population. And AI can help you do that. So we're looking forward to working with you, and thank you very much for your time.
Certainly, thank you very much. We'll be in touch. Thank you, and see you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hemant. It was a nice session. Hope to see you soon, sir, again.
Thank you very much.
Dear attendees, our next session will start at 6 o'clock. Hope to see you all there. Thank you so much once again.